With Requiem for a Dream, director Darren Aronofsky attempted to create some sort of order among the chaos of the disastrous nightmare the film's characters find themselves in. His first film, the black and white paranoid thriller Pi, which was shot for a measly $20,000, had its main character, Max Cohen, searching for order among the chaos of a math problem and the chaos of his life. In Requiem, the characters are all struggling to cope with the harsh realities of existence. Unfortunately, in order to cope, they've descended into a life of addiction. In a sense, their lives have order. Feeding their addictions gives them a feeling of control, and their daily routines of shoveling substances into their systems protects them from an uncaring world. But inevitably, they become the architects of their own destruction, and can't hold back the tidal wave of chaos that threatens to engulf them. This theme starts from the very opening of the film, as Harry has an argument with his mother. The chaotic clash between mother and son is artfully presented in a very symmetrical fashion with the split screen. Other filmmakers have successfully used the split screen for different effects. Brian De Palma used it to create a heightened sense of audience participation in the events on screen. Roger Avery used it to establish a separation between the characters and their inner lives. At certain points, Aronofsky utilizes the split screen for both types of effects. Here, we are able to see Sarah and Harry at the same time, even though they are in separate rooms. And they both seem to have very different inner lives, even though they occupy the same location of the apartment, and in this scene with Harry and Marion, existing in separate visual spaces, even though they're right next to each other. It suggests their relationship has some clear boundaries being set by the drugs they're hooked on. Are they really in love, or are they just caught up in the euphoria of a drug habit? And check out the symmetrical nature of the camera moves in the opening title sequence as Harry and Tyrone travel to hawk the television. Even the light in this shot is used strategically to create a shape around the characters, a defined space that represents the bubble of addiction they've encased themselves in. And this shot, where the camera is locked to the TV while the action around it jiggles and bounces around, begins the use of the SnorriCam technique. The SnorriCam is a camera rig specifically designed to lock itself to a person or thing in order to create visual stability to the subject while the background falls into chaos. This is employed at several key points in the film to highlight the character's world crumbling all around them. It's a very effective technique. Martin Scorsese employed a similar technique in his early film Mean Streets. After the opening, Harry and Tyrone use their score to get high, which begins the hip-hop montage Aronofsky employs during these drug sequences. The filmmaker has stated that he didn't want to make a paraphernalia movie, trying to avoid scenes of characters methodically shooting up like you see in other movies. Instead, he uses what he terms hip-hop montage, inspired visual language that uses visuals in the same way hip-hop artists use samples for their music. By doing this, Aronofsky turns the character's procedural drug use into another sense of order that encapsulates their sorry existence. It is actually a much more effective way to express the nature of drug use and its effect on the human body. First, the before and after the drug use is much more contrasted, putting a greater spotlight on the drug's effect. Second, the separate shots and their quick subliminal flash effect creates an impersonal, detached experience from the drug itself. And finally, it also makes addiction itself another character, since the shots are almost all centered around the drug and its point of view, creating a space for it to exist in the narrative as its own entity. The drug is using them more than they are using it. And notice here again the characters existing in the space of the light, which creates symmetry for them as they spaz out. These symmetrical visuals for interiors occur all throughout the film. Harry and Marion's loving relationship benefits from this safe, enclosed, repetitive, and predictable visual technique. It will serve as a potent contrast to the hellish descent the characters undergo later on. Aronofsky starts to lay down some of the rules for the visual language of the film in this scene, where the camera is always perfectly symmetrical with the characters, either filming them from the front, behind, or from the side. This shot selection acts to create a box around the characters, encasing them in their own drug-fueled reality. The symmetry of a box of chocolates, Sarah's vice, as she sits in front of the box tube television, another symmetrical device. You can even see the infomercial that Sarah is watching, designed with this box symmetry in mind. And Aronofsky goes so far as to create the same framing for different character environments. This high angle in Sarah's bedroom is almost exactly the same angle we saw at Harry's place earlier. And with this example, symmetry happens not only with shots, but with characters. Marion at certain points becomes a stand-in for Harry's mother, who he has a terrible relationship with. In Harry's drug-fueled hallucinations, he runs for Marion at the end of a pier. Notice the symmetry of the pier shape, and Marion is wearing a red dress, the same dress his mother is obsessed with fitting into. In Sarah's case, the dress is her salvation. If she can fit into it and get on television, she can maybe get her son to respect her more and spend more time with her. Hence, her addiction becomes the dress, losing the weight to fit the dress, and by extension, the diet pills that allow her to do this without dropping her other favorite addiction, food. Harry's guilt over his treatment of his mother is represented by this red dress, and Sarah's addiction is expressed using the same hip-hop montage technique used for the narcotics. This is a very obvious way of tying the theme of addiction to several different things besides just narcotics. Once the drug dealing starts, we see the same montage technique. Besides keeping the focus on the drug itself, and not the procedural aspect of dealing, these montages also create a sense of momentum. The film becomes like a dark, festering snowball rolling downhill, gaining size and speed the further it goes along until it is devouring everything in its path. You even see handshakes and kisses in these montages, as if the characters' lives are becoming just as inauthentic and toxic as the drugs they're using to get ahead. These seeds will blossom later when things spiral out of control. Once the chaos kicks in and the drugs the characters have depended on to keep their lives in check start to become the source of their misery, the once symmetrical shot selection devolves into more chaotic shaky cam moments. But the symmetry isn't totally gone. The symmetrical angles now seem to take on a different dimension, less about order and chaos, and more about the predictable precision of a person's downfall from addiction. The montage effect employed earlier now mutates into hellish building blocks of destruction, gaining more and more momentum until the images start blurring into each other. The symmetry now less about order for the characters and more about how these addictive nightmares all share the same DNA. The filmmaking employed in Requiem for a Dream felt groundbreaking when the film was released in 2000. It certainly inspired me on my filmmaking journey, and every time I revisit it, I appreciate it more and more. If you enjoyed this video, consider hitting the like and subscribe button, as I'll be posting more content in the future. Thanks for watching.